Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Welcome to our video on Unit 2 Vector Analysis for Module 1 for the PHY 130 Micro-Credential course. Unit 2 is divided into two parts, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 we discuss what is a vector and how to write a vector quantity in graphical, in a statement, and in equation form. Part 2 we discuss the methods to add or subtract a vector. Happy learning! In this video, we will discuss part 1 about scalar and vector quantities and vector representation. Let us discuss about scalar and vector quantities. Physical quantities can be divided into two groups, that is, scalar and vector quantities. Scalar quantities are quantities that have magnitude or numerical value along with units. This means if you want to describe a scalar quantity, you need to give the value that is a magnitude and the unit of the quantity. For example, distance, mass, speed, and temperature. For vector quantities, there are quantities that have both magnitude and direction along with the units. This means if you want to describe a vector quantity, you need to give the value that is a magnitude, the unit, and the direction of the quantity. For example, to describe a body velocity completely, we will have to mention its magnitude and direction. This means that we will have to mention how fast it is going in terms of distance covered per unit time and describe what direction it is headed. Example of vector quantities: displacements, weight, velocity, and force. Do you know how to write or describe a vector quantity? Basically, there are three ways to write or describe vector. Number 1, graphical representation. Number 2, statement representation. And number 3, alphabetical representation. Let us discuss each of them. Number 1, graphical representation. Vector can be graphically represented by an arrow in an XY plane. The length of the arrow represents the magnitude of the vector. The direction of the arrow represents the direction of vector. The direction is represented by the angle theta between the arrow and the positive x-axis. There are three ways to determine direction of a vector: the angle methods, the bearing methods, and the pulse method. For angle methods, the angle is measured from the positive x-axis. If the angle is measured in the clockwise direction, the angle has a negative sign. Otherwise, if angle is measured in the anti-clockwise direction, the angle has a positive sign. The angle has a value of between negative 180 degrees and positive 180 degrees. Let us solve example 1. Determine the direction of this vector. Please try to apply the rules on the left box and you will get the solution for this example. The answer for vector A is positive 60 degrees, B is positive 110 degrees, and vector C is negative 170 degrees. For bearing method, the angles are measured from the positive y-axis. The measurement is in the clockwise direction only. The angle has a value of between 0 to 360 degrees. Let us solve for example 2. From the rule for bearing method, we managed to get the answer for all vectors that are vector A equal to bearing 30 degrees, vector B equal to bearing 340 degrees, and vector C is equal to bearing 260 degrees. Now, let us look at the pulse method. The direction of the pulse method is expressed in terms of the angle and the position of vectors between the poles. The angle has a value of between 0 to 90 degrees. For example 3, try to follow the rules and therefore we get vector A equal 60 degrees north of east, B equals 70 degrees north of west, and vector C equals 80 degrees west of south. Now, let us discuss the second way to represent a vector, statement representation. A vector may be represented by a statement of its magnitude, unit, and direction. Let us try example 4. A baseball is thrown with an initial velocity of 100 meters per second at an angle of 30 degrees above the horizontal. If we analyze the statement above, we find that the initial velocity vector has a magnitude of 100 meters per second. The direction of the initial velocity is 30 degrees above the positive x-axis, which is in the first quadrant. If we draw the vector in an xy plane, we get a vector as shown in figure. Next is alphabetical representation. In this method, an equation of a vector may be represented by a set of symbols. This method is used to simplify how the equation of a vector is written. Let us try example 5 using alphabetical representation. If we analyze the statement, we find that the initial velocity vector has a magnitude of 100 meters per second. The direction of the initial velocity is 30 degrees above the positive x-axis, which is in the first quadrant. Using symbols, we can write the vector as u equal to 100 meters per second angle 30 degrees, where 100 meters per second is the magnitude and positive 30 degrees is the direction of vector above the positive x-axis. The symbol of the vector is type bold. We have reached the end of Unit 2, Part 1. We hope you understand the lesson and enjoy the video. Please download the video for Unit 2, Part 2 to continue our discussion. Till we meet again. Bye.